Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today.
There you go.
Yeah. I have to tell you too, I'm very sympathetic.
Oh, I'm a cry too, so I'm here for it. It's fine. Yeah.
That's different. There's podcast Pete and there's other Pete. Other Pete grabs my ass and calls me
I
David.
grab your ass. I mean, people know what I'm like on the
podcast
boat. I'm
Pete
lucky to still have a job in the UK Fire and Rescue Service, because I always say the fire service says, be yourself. No, not like that. Yeah. Don't do that. You know what I mean? It's like
you're doing it all
we
wrong.
embrace that inclusivity, but no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's inappropriate.
No joking
I am
around
too
anymore.
tactile. I'm way too tactile. I think I wasn't hugged enough as a child, so now I'm just...
I had the same
My
problem.
wife knows I'm a serial flirt. I hug and kiss men as much as I do with women, but apparently it's inappropriate. But anyway.
Brad has more bromances than anyone.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I said to him the other day, I saw him hugging someone else. I'm like, who's he? Who's he?
I didn't even know.
I'm jealous all
Just
the
running
time.
down
He
the
has
street.
too many best friends.
We'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
Hey folks, and welcome back to the podcast. That intro may have thrown you off a little. Now, this conversation is kind of both ends of the spectrum because it's playful but serious. This is a conversation I had back in Saudi Arabia at the Aramco Toughest Firefighter Alive. And on today's conversation, you're going to be hearing Bradley Dix. From Canada, you're going to hear Kyle Keighery. And a lot of this conversation originates around a story shared with me from Carla Morrison, who you're also going to hear on the podcast. What I love so much about this conversation and why I wanted to separate it out from our Toughest Firefighter Alive travel stuff is because this doesn't really talk about kicking ass, taking names, running up and down stairs and all that craziness. This is a really impactful conversation around investing in firefighter health and well-being, the programs that we use, and the seriousness to which we truly give to the long-term health and longevity of our first responders. Now, you're going to hear the differences in the Canadian program and how they look after their firefighters, the biannually, and if you want, annually checks, and how truly in-depth they are. We're going to be hearing from Kyle about what's done in Australia and how that compares or not. And of course, you will know a lot of probably what goes on in the UK, and I share a little bit around that as well. We are way behind the curve in the seriousness and investment that we put into looking after our first responders in terms of their general health and well-being, all the health markers, and what more could actually be done to help us both stay fit and healthy, but also keep a close eye on the horizon of any health indicators that may indicate some very serious conditions, diseases, or debilitating illnesses that might be coming over that horizon. Carla Morrison shares a really emotional story, and it did get a little bit emotional for myself and everyone around the table. There's actually more than 4 people sat around here. We're in the lobby of a really beautiful hotel, and there's a few other people listening in just because they were that interested in Carla's story as well. So you're going to hear some background noise, but it's a really, really worthwhile conversation, and I want you to think about it. I want you to send it to someone that's involved in health and well-being in your service. Have you got an ambassador? Have you got a champion? Have you got someone really, really focused on their role in your health and well-being team, or in your health and safety team, or your occupational health team? Send them this link, drop it in the WhatsApp group. Maybe they'll listen, maybe they won't. It's always easy to say we're doing everything we can until you realize what's truly out there and what everyone else is doing. We've come a long way, and we're all very thankful for the help and support we get from our services and brigades when it comes to our fitness and health and well-being, but a lot more could be done. And my sincere fear is how many other people are dealing with these tragic consequences without the help and support that Carla received from her department. So without further ado, let's descend into this conversation, and I hope you take a lot from it. Once again, thanks for coming back to the podcast. Please follow, rate, subscribe, share it wherever you can so we can get this message and Carla's message out there to the people that really need to hear it. Stay safe out there, folks, and I will see you on the other side.
First and foremost, Carla, massive congratulations on your performance. How did you feel it went through the TFA? Is this your first time doing it?
It was my first time.
You seemed to crush the hell out of it.
It was a wake-up call. It was hard.
Yeah. We were talking to Anna and some of the other girls, and it is a whole different kind of thing.
And now we're changing the weights to do the men's weights, or the weights we were expecting today. So I'm excited to do that. That's what we came for.
That was an interesting dynamic, because some girls felt a bit put back by it. They were like, oh, well, that's not fair. Everything should be the same. But like similar conversation we had earlier is like, don't let progress be the enemy of perfect. It's like we all want to get to that point, but also we don't want to douse people's enthusiasm and fire by having a really discouraging, embarrassing, interaction and experience if they can't do that yet. Do you know what I mean? That's the aspiration.
Well, I'll admit I was like livid about it when I heard, because I was never asked. So I thought we maybe should have asked it, like talked about it as a group.
Yeah.
But so
Why?
they'd already
Did it just
changed it when I
scream
showed up that
inequality
day.
to you, or did it just scream we're not? You think we're not as good as anybody? Why?
Well, when we looked at the rules, it didn't say anything different.
I agree.
I came in ready to do the regular course.
Yep.
So I was upset when they changed it, and then doing it on Thursday, even with the lighter weights, was quite challenging. So
It's a humbling
it's gonna
experience.
be it's gonna be a challenge today for sure. It's
For
gonna make
people
it a
that are
different
unaware,
race.
where was you finishing? How did you come out? Because we've done all the medals and the timings. Tonight is kind of the big hurrah out in the lights. But how did your performance go? Where did you come?
So I placed third after the two American girls.
Yep.
They were
It
both
was tight,
very
though.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't seen the times yet, but
I saw
yeah,
them, Angie showed me.
we all had some pretty similar stages, and then Anna kicked all our butts on the stairs at the end. She was flying.
She's got them powerful quads. I
Yeah,
think that's all
yeah.
that's all the power cleans, and snatches, and squats that she's
Yeah,
doing.
she was flying. I was watching her stairs. It was impressive. So yeah, it'll be good.
One thing I wanted to uniquely speak to yourselves and Carl about was the way that you guys and girls go about health and well-being. You seem to be a lot further ahead than the UK. I mean, we've doing a big focus on decontamination now, and we've started bringing in cancer screenings and things like this. But embarrassingly, as a Western country, we're quite far behind it. Like, where are you guys at in where you're at in your nations, and the kind of focus that's given to health and well-being for firefighters? Because I know, Carla, your personal experience has been one where it really does demonstrate if you truly invest in health and well-being of your first responders, you can protect them for far longer and recognise some things that are going to have a massive effect on their life.
So our department has a wellness and fitness initiative. It's run by the department. It's the same as some other departments in the area. Edmonton is a large department, and they follow the same program as us. We have the option of going yearly for physical test. How would you describe it? It's
an
you
annual
go see a
physical, yeah.
doctor, eye exam, hearing.
What spectrum is covered in that? So eye exam, because some American models, they're doing like cancer screenings,
So-
and they take your bloods as well.
Yeah.
We don't do any of it. When we started doing it in the UK about 6 months ago. But
So we follow the NFPA WFI standard. This is the protocol that's put out there. It covers medical as well as physical fitness training and initiatives. The testing consists of every 5 years you do a chest X-ray, a heavy metal test. Yearly, or every 2 years you do the blood work, eye test, hearing test, BMI, spirometry for a respiratory test, and a few more. And then we got like your mask fitting every single year as well.
and there's no cost to the firefighter.
None. We get paid to go do it. It's all covered by the department. We do it on
Go
shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's every other year, but they will pay if you want to go yearly.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
So every other year you go on shift. They actually call in overtime for the entire shift. We all go. We all go together, actually. And then it's like a big outing.
Yeah. We go for breakfast afterwards.
And if you want to go on your own in the years between, you can.
So help me complete the map and give me some mirroring from your perspective. What does it look like where you are?
Yeah, well, to hear that, it's amazing to hear that they've got those support networks set in place, and that's a program that you guys follow, and it really does build my case, because it's quite the opposite story over where I'm from in Australia. We're relatively naive to the problems that arise with firefighting and the associated risks and hazards. Yes, there's some good research taking on the back
even
of...
now, because like with the declaration from the World Health Organization, and there's the data's almost becoming undeniable now, I would have thought.
Exactly.
Is there just not a political appetite for it, or?
I think it's the fact that because it hasn't been done in the past, and people get comfortable in the position that they're in, and perhaps are in a position where they might be hiding some things. There's no push from certain people on the floor to have this promoted and pushed through the industry. So they don't want it to be seen as a tool that can be used to push them out of the job.
If you acknowledge it, then there's almost an acknowledgement that we've been doing it wrong for 20 years. And then it's the fear of the cases and the court cases. And at the minute, people are retiring, and then quietly in their own private life, they're discovering 2 or 3 years after retirement, they discover a cancer or they discover something else. But there is very difficult to make a causal link to their occupational exposure that they've had, and if that's been a contributing factor.
That's right. And now the research, as you just mentioned, is undeniably there, and you cannot be naive to it. That's no longer an excuse. Yeah. You must comply, and through to, I guess I stumbled across some information. I recently completed some training that involved looking into our acts and regulations, and I saw it there black and white that we must be screening regularly. Yeah. And I was like, well, why aren't we doing this? And why am I seeing my colleagues, my friends, their families in pain when all of a sudden, with no symptoms sometimes, being cut off at the knees too early? And if there was something in place prior to that, being at a point where they were now adversely affected for the rest of their life or lose their lives, picked it up in its infancy stages, they'd still be here today or still be working along with us.
That element of picking it up in its infancy stages, because they're one of my favourite books. They talk about the elephant and the rider. Have you ever heard of this analogy? So the elephant and the rider talks about your motivations. So the rider is logic. So I can give you lots of data and lots of research from the World Health Organization, but data doesn't really move us. Like I could say 7 million people just starved in Africa, Carla, and donate some money, and you'd be like, well, yeah. But if I tell you the story of some one individual, if I tell you the story of a young girl in Africa, and that's how charities tend to work, because we learn through stories. It's how the Bible was written, and that's the elephant. So no matter how much knowledge you give the rider, unless you're emotionally invested in the thing, you won't continue the action, because it's just data that's trying to drive the logical mind, whereas the elephant is the emotion. And that's why when you shared your story with me, and Brad was present the other day, I think to myself, and it just sort of triggered in my memory when you spoke about that early detection, because we talk about finding cancer in your 60s and it's already spread and XYZ and there's nothing we can do about it, and that just sucks to be you. But there is a lot to be said when it comes to early detection. I've got these things on my forearm. I've got 13 of these tumours in my body, but they're benign tumours, they're lipomas. We've looked at them, we've biopsied them and all that sort of stuff, and now you're aware of them and you can make an informed decision. And I know for yourself with the health and well-being and the early detection aspect, Carla, you had, I don't want to even say similar, because mine is really small, insignificant in comparison to yours, but if you could share a little bit of how that came about for you.
Yeah, so our department has actually, with their WFI, caught a few things. I know there's been a few men prostate cancer. There's been another member with a brain tumor. We had skin cancers caught from the blood tests and stuff like that. So it's been a success. My personal story is I didn't have any symptoms that I noticed, but I went in for my WFI and I had severe hearing loss on my left side. And they could look back, and I'd actually had a hearing test at work only 5 months earlier. And it worked out. I think I had switched shifts or something, so I had 2 WFIs close together. Mm-hmm. Or I'd went on my own before, and then I think we started going on shifts.
It just fell on someone else's schedule.
So it just happened that I had a normal hearing test from 5 months earlier. Mm-hmm. So I had drastically lost hearing, and I was in the severe category for hearing loss. So I had almost no hearing on my left side.
Wow.
Yeah. So
when you heard that, did you think occupational concern, or were you just that's weird? Or
the nurse was really good.
Okay.
The lady that did the hearing test had actually had a relative that had something similar, and then actually had lupus, I believe. I don't think I do a good job explaining it. But anyway, so something severe, and she was really concerned. Because the first question she asked, like, do you shoot guns? Because that's normally like, or have you been in an explosion?
Yeah.
She's like, that's the only other things that could cause something like that, really.
Okay.
So she was like concerned right away. But so I had to, the only problem with their WFI is they can't further look into things, but so they recommended I looked into that on my own. It was during COVID, so it was hard to get in. I called my doctor and I could only get a telephone appointment, and I was like, no, I need like in person, like I need you to do exams.
There's got to be an irony in that.
I know.
You've got low hearing and let's have an appointment on the telephone.
So I actually like paid and went for a hearing test on my own, like a more in-depth one.
Okay.
And then sent that to my doctor. And then I still just had the phone appointment like a couple weeks later. And she was like, oh, I needed to see you in person. I was like, I know. I tried.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went into the doctor that same day, I think. And then she got me into an ENT or ear, nose, throat doctor quite quickly. So that was good.
Were you worried about it at any point here? Does it... Because I didn't know if it... I think my hearing's pretty bad, and I've got no sense of smell. My body's sense is just progressively failing. And some of this... How old would you have been then, sorry?
How old?
Yeah, would you have been
so
then?
this was only 2.5 years ago.
Okay. So you'd been 30...
during COVID. It would have been more than that now. It was 2021.
Okay, so 4 years.
Yeah, so
4
almost
years ago. Yeah.
Almost 3.
Yeah, summer
so
of
you'd have been
2021.
30...
Well, I'm 39 right now.
So you'd been 36.
So,
yeah. Yeah. No,
Because if it was just progressive loss hearing, some people...
Yeah.
I know guys, there's so many things I should go to the doctors for, and I'm like, I mean, this is going to kill me.
What you're saying here is triggering a lot of things.
So-
It's not bother going.
as soon as I had that hearing test, I started noticing things that I probably should have noticed before.
Okay.
Just like little things, like when someone called me, if I picked up in this hand, I would always switch to this hand. But it wasn't like, I didn't really think about it. I just like, so then as soon as I did it, I'd like answer the phone on this side, and I could hear sounds, but not words.
Whoa.
And then that was what showed in my hearing test, is like I had no, I couldn't recognize words when they did like a more in-depth hearing. They like said certain words and I was supposed to say them back, and I couldn't understand. Okay. So I was worried then. At the time, it was during COVID, and Brad and I were working out in his garage gym like almost daily. And that's what I told him. I was like, I think I have a brain tumor. I was like, for some reason, I just thought that's what it was.
Why?
I have no idea.
You just something you felt that, or somebody had said it, or
No.
when a medical professional is worried.
No one had said it. And I'd had my doctor's appointment, I'd had my hearing test, no one had said it. But I don't know,
And I was just like, no way, there's no way.
He was like, no, it's fine.
There's not a chance, it'll be fine.
There's an image of someone we have that has a brain tumor, isn't it? And you're like, that's not a fit person. That's someone that's really struggling with life in general, and you're not overly surprised. But when it's someone in the prime of their physical fitness,
and that's the thing, like, it doesn't discriminate, and that's what we're finding out now. You mentioned before, like, you see someone there 60 or 70, it does not discriminate anymore. We've just had a guy, similar position to Carla, very fit, runs triathlons, 0 symptoms though, and all of a sudden now he's got cancer, he's riddled, and due to no symptoms. And again, you just mentioned before that you noticed small changes, but you didn't know that they meant something.
Yeah.
And your body adapted. Instead of answering the phone with your right hand, it was left hand. So without professional help, we don't know what to look for. We're not professionals in that industry.
In other news, this episode is brought to you in partnership with MSA Safety. Today we have them to thank for the improved firefighter safety through connectivity in their brand new connected firefighter system. At the center of the connected firefighter platform is the MSA M1 SCBA with telemetry. You can view battery life, air pressure, and estimated time remaining either independently on the M1 itself or from the Luna connected device screen. Also, still with the air status, alarm information, search status, and all of this provided to the incident command for confident decision making during the scene. That integrates straight in with the Luna system, which is a wireless all-in-one device creating an independent search and rescue network, providing edge detection, enhanced personal thermal imaging, while simplifying post-scene reporting and data retention. One of the key parts of the Luna is their FAST system, the Firefighting Assisting Search Technology. This combines directional and distance information with thermal imaging to help find separated teammates and decrease response time. It actually connects you to the other crews in the vicinity for a unified search during the time of mutual aid by instantly notifying the network of Luna devices when there is a downed crew member allowing for a prompt search and rescue. All of this then plugs into the FireGrid system for cloud-based connectivity, real-time information, and data-driven decisions for the incident commander. It enables you to see the exact location of your firefighters on the scene. And it doesn't require you to be sat on the station. The MSA hub then provides a wireless gateway straight to the cloud, enabling wireless on-scene data for local and remote incident command for additional eyes on the scene. MSA are truly taking massive strides in the future of improved firefighter safety through connectivity. MSA is dedicated to increasing safety in the fire service through technological advancements. Various feature enhancements, new products, partnerships, and integrations will provide additional capabilities readily accessible by products, software, and services in the brand new MSA Connected Firefighter platform. Now back to the show.
So you hadn't had the diagnosis, but something you felt, you just thought...
That's what I just kept saying. When we were working out, I'm like, I just think I have a tumor. I don't know.
But what did you think that equals? Like this, did you think brain tumor equals I'm going to die, or brain tumor is I'm going to be mentally disabled?
Because I still felt fine. I think I was still like calm about it. And then everything I kind of lucked out because to get an MRI at the time in Canada, it was like over 6 months.
Wow.
And when my doctor booked my MRI, I called the hospital and I said, I can come in anytime. So I was like, if someone cancels, like I can be here in 20 minutes.
Had you had MRI before?
Yes.
They're not very nice, are they?
No, but I was like, I can be here anytime. Yeah. And so I actually got in like right away for an MRI. Like I think they called me within a couple of days that they're like, if you can come in tomorrow at 10 p.m., you can get an MRI. I was like, yes.
What did you tell your family and work at this time?
At this time, I think only like my husband, family knew, and Brad.
Okay.
But my husband is like so optimistic. He's like, oh, it'll be nothing. You'll get your hearing back. And I was like, no, you can't get your hearing back. But okay. So anyway, I feel like my husband was like overly optimistic and I was like, I don't think this is good. And then after my MRI, this is when I knew it was really bad, is because nothing happens fast in Canada. I had a neurologist office call me before I got home from my MRI. And the hospital is only a 25-minute drive from my house. So I had a neurologist call me and say they wanted me in the office the next morning.
Did they tell you why?
No.
Fucking hell.
For an appointment.
Did you sleep?
No. So that's when I knew it was bad. And still, like, my husband is like, he's like, nah, it's just efficient. Now you've had your MRI, they just want to like.
I'm pretty sure you called me. You told me to, and I was like, no, it's just like they're gonna like follow.
I was like, nobody's that efficient. Like the phone call before I got home was like, that's when I was like, okay, this is not good. And then I went in and they told me I should have brought somebody, and their information specifically says you have to come alone. It was during COVID. So it like, and he's like, oh, you really should have brought somebody. And so that's when I got mad because it's like, well, you should have told me I should have brought somebody. And he wanted to wait till I got someone there. And I was like, no, just fucking tell me. Like, I need to know. So I didn't wait for anyone to come. And yeah, so that's when, and it was benign, but it was pushing on my brainstem and wrapped around all of my nerves. So like,
did they show you it on an image?
Yeah. Like that was from, they showed me. And it was quite large. I think it was 35 millimeters.
Wow.
So like almost like an inch, over an inch and a half or something like that. And it was wrapped around all of my facial nerves. So like for eye, hearing, balance, smiling, frowning. So it was all wrapped in there. So it's called an acoustic neuroma. So luckily benign, luckily slow growing, but they said they caught it late. They usually like to do surgery before it hits 20 millimeters. So mine was covering a lot of my brainstem. And they said they wanted to get it out as soon as possible because brainstem controls breathing, balance, so lots of important things.
Life.
So life. Yeah. So I actually got, they thought they needed 2 surgeons to do it, so I got the first appointment that they both had free. So I had a neurosurgeon and an ENT surgeon.
What was the best case and worst case scenario? So they make you aware of this. They tell you it's benign, so for people that don't know, there's either benign or there's malignant. There's cancerous, there's non-cancerous. Right. But it's still something that's in you and you know it's in you, but you can't see it. And this is the first time you've seen it and it's been in there growing for a long time.
I think I was lucky in the sense that I didn't have a long time to think about it.
Okay.
So like I found out everything quite quickly. Everything kind of fell into place. I was actually going to work right up to my surgery, and I actually wasn't planning on telling my shift until I left. So I was going to wait till the day before surgery.
Typical.
That was kind of my plan, because I was like,
Why?
I just don't want anyone to know.
Why?
Well, because where it is the doctor's like, I can't believe you haven't been tripping and falling or lost your balance or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just don't want anyone to worry about me while I'm at work.
Why?
I feel fine. I feel like I could still do the job, so I just didn't want anyone to be concerned.
Did you not want to appear weak?
And then, what?
Did you not want to appear weak or feel like you were
Yeah,
vulnerable?
I think so. And then
Sometimes that's a nice distraction, because
Yeah.
if you see me different, then I can no longer be myself. And I've
Right.
already
Right.
lost part of
Right.
my identity.
Yeah.
I'm no longer who I am, because you're on tiptoes around me.
That's right.
You know I'm weak.
And we're a
you know
family.
I can't cope with something. So you're showing us,
A
brother.
little bit early. This is day after surgery.
This is beautiful. So Brad's showing us a picture of Carla with a lovely big bandage wrapped around her head,
This
giving
is
us the
the-
middle finger.
Double birds.
Representing
I think it's
her
the only picture of
independence.
me in the
And this was
hospital.
the
I'd
tumor.
like to think that's her saying "fuck you" to the tumor, not to everybody else.
Yeah.
That's not tiny.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you be happy for Brad to send not the picture of you giving
Oh,
me the
yeah,
bird, but
Yeah.
picture or whatever he wants to send me?
Yeah,
That'd
he's
be
got the picture of my brain
share
tumor
those
there.
with me, brother.
Yeah,
So you didn't tell anybody.
I didn't right away.
You didn't want to change who
Yeah,
you are.
like,
You didn't want a
obviously-
special treatment.
Yeah.
I know what it is. I know how to deal with it. I've got a plan. I just need to focus on getting it done.
But I can't remember the conversation. It was morning table, having coffee with my shift, and someone was jokingly like, "Oh, what? Do you have a fucking brain tumor?"
Yeah.
As a total joke, and I was like, "Actually."
Did you break down and straight there?
Yeah,
or-
and then I ended up telling everybody, and my captain was like, "Well, what the fuck are you doing here?" Because it was only 2 weeks.
Imagine when
before
you left the
surgery.
room and they were like, "Fucking dick."
Yeah.
What did you do that for?
You're the asshole.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Insensitive.
Did he buy you some flowers, I hope?
Yeah, my captain was like, "Well, what the fuck are you doing here? You only have."
Yeah.
It was 2 weeks before surgery, and it was summer.
Yeah.
He's like, "Go home and hang out with your family." So I ended up doing a backcountry camping trip with my kids because I was worried I wouldn't be able to do it again. Because they told me they
How
were
old are
gonna
your children?
They were going to remove my balance nerve and my hearing nerve. So they told me I would leave in a wheelchair, and then I'd have to
Jesus.
learn how to walk again because one balance nerve instead of two. So
How old were your children?
what?
How old were they then?
They would have been 4 and 6.
How did they handle it?
Yeah. What did you tell them about it as well? What did you? Because Mummy's going to go and Mummy's got to go to the doctors because she's
Yeah.
not very well at the minute. But I'll be okay. But when you see me next time,
Yeah,
I'll
I
look
didn't know
different.
if I would be able to walk after. So
Because you're super
that's pretty
mum.
weird.
exactly.
Look at you. You're an
Mum's
athlete.
a firefighter.
Yeah.
Mum kicks ass and takes names.
So my oldest daughter is super sensitive, and so she was very worried. And my youngest is like, oh, I can't wait to see the scar kind of thing. Is it gonna hurt? Will there be blood?
Whilst it was benign, any surgery has complications.
Right.
Cutting you open is always a bit of a gamble. What conversation did you and your husband have around possible outcomes?
Ever heard the quote that true leaders are readers? Well, we believe this is true. Listeners often ask where we go to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the sector globally. So there are a few key publications which I encourage you to go check out. Now, if you're looking for insights on disaster management, fire protection, and firefighting, for us, we go to Asia Pacific Fire Magazine. And when you're looking for the latest on the Middle East fire protection industry and fire services, it's Gulf Fire Magazine. And our quarterly check-in is with International Firefighter Magazine, reporting to municipal, industrial, and fire training professionals. Now, next up, and widely accepted to be the global voice for passive and active fire protection, this is a good one. It's International Fire Protection Magazine. And finally, and perhaps the most relevant to our predominantly UK audience, I'd strongly suggest subscribing to UK Fire Magazine, reporting to the United Kingdom fire protection industry and fire services. We're really excited to announce that after a long-standing relationship and mutual respect, we've now partnered with MDM Publishing, who bring you all of these essential publications. Because in a world of change, the learners shall inherit the earth, while the learned shall find themselves perfectly suited for a world that no longer exists. Eric Hoffer said that, and I believe he was right. So keep growing, keep learning, and keep yourself in the know and at the cutting edge of what's happening globally by dropping into the notes. And as a gift from the podcast, you can actually subscribe to any of these publications for free using the link in our notes. Now back to the show. They
They told me that my surgeon was good. He actually, for what you hear about a surgeon and maybe lack of personality, my ENT surgeon was awesome. He actually, one of our appointments, I had like so many questions. He was like, okay, only have one more patient. If you can hang out, we can talk. And he probably talked to me for like an hour.
Oh, that's good.
So I was concerned about the job and stuff. He said I for sure wouldn't be able to work out for 6 months after. Like, because he just said balance, we won't be able to pick anything up. Like, I wasn't supposed to lay down for like 6 weeks.
You're supposed to lay down?
Yeah.
You're going to sleep standing up?
No, I could just like an angle, like a wedge pillow or whatever.
Okay.
Just because of pressure, like the biggest risk after was like cerebral spinal fluid leak.
All right.
But everything worked out better than they said, so.
Had you done the surgery before?
Because
you know where they're like,
yes.
99 out of 100 times this is successful. How many have you done?
Yeah.
like 80, 90, you know? Yeah, all
know.
fine so far.
I know, I was like asking if my surgeon had a whoop or something. I was like, can I see how you slept last night? Show me your sleep
I
data.
think, though, for people like surgeons, it's got to be such a head game as well, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
for you, it's a Monday.
Yeah.
And for Carla, it's this thing I'm scared to death about. I might kill me if you've got to do it right. There's so much pressure for them. I wonder how they
The
manage
rest of
that
her
cognitive
life is in
load.
his hands or her hands, you know.
I feel like it's our job a little bit too, where it's like we don't think about it, and they're
You've got to
so
disconnect.
accustomed to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, it's just
I always
another day.
think like the difference between a surgeon and a psychopath must be a doctorate. That's the only difference, because you're cutting up a lump of flesh, and then I'm going for dinner with Anna later. It's like
I must admit, I reckon it would have been a worse scenario if he'd gone, I've done 99 of these surgeries and they've all been great.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause-
yeah, exactly. Just
Like-
like that one
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So
So you say it went better than you anticipated?
yeah, well, my surgery was supposed to be 8 hours, and it ended up being
It was like 14 or something. It was
14?
insane.
yeah.
Is that 'cause
So
you've
I
got
feel
such an
awful
intricate
for
brain?
for my husband. There was a few things. So it was one surgeon did the opening, and the opening itself takes like over 4 hours because they don't actually remove the piece of skull. They like grind it out,
They
like little piece
bore
by
a
little.
hole.
Yeah.
Have you still got a soft spot?
No, they put a titanium mesh.
Okay.
So I have I can show you after. I have like a scar that goes like around here. So that took longer, and then you have a jugular, what do they call it? I can't think of it
Doesn't
right
matter.
now. But anyway, where your jugular vein connects, there's
Yeah.
a jugular bulb up
Okay.
here. And apparently mine was lower than where most are.
Right.
So the opening they created was half the size of what it normally would be. And the surgeons were telling me after that they were fighting during surgery because the one surgeon wanted the other one to make a bigger hole. And the other one said, I can't, because if I nick this jugular bulb, she's dead in like 60 seconds. So he's like, I will not make a bigger hole. You're going to have to deal with it. I was like, you get what you get. And they said they were fighting. They were both laughing about it after. I was like, great. But apparently there's a big fight in the
Nice,
operating
okay.
room. So he had smaller space to work with. So then the removal took longer.
Okay. Because you're quite petite anyway, aren't you? You're not. I've got a head like a melon, so
Yeah.
I'm sure you could put a scaffold up around it. It'd be fine. There's lots of
Yeah.
room to work in. You're quite a petite lady.
They also
And-
needed connective tissue, right?
Oh, so then they had another problem, and I tried to tell them that they would have a problem with this, but I think they just thought I was being crazy. I don't know. But so because they took out the skull, and the skull where they removed it is the thickest part of the skull,
Okay.
and so they needed something to fill that hole because the titanium mesh is thin. So they use abdominal fat. So before the surgery, I had to sign off. They said they'd take a fist-size amount of abdominal fat.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't think I have that much fat.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh
I'm
yeah,
in
everyone
amazing
does.
shape. Look at me.
I know,
I've
it's
probably
like-
got a pound of fat at most.
Without trying to sound like an asshole, is
Yeah.
I don't think I have that much fat. And he's like, oh no, everyone does. I was even was like, do you want to look? And he's like, no, we'll be good.
Okay.
So then I guess I didn't have enough fat when they
Right.
looked at me in the surgery. So they had to come up with a new plan. So they
Improvise on the hop.
so they used fascia from my leg.
Oh,
So I have a scar on my leg on the side.
I thought you were going to say breast, because a lot of breast tissue is just fat, isn't it? So you go from stomach, abdomen, and stuff
Yeah,
like
she's
that.
got massive double Ds, so there's
You're on lopsided when you come out.
might
We
have
just took a
trouble
chunk
there
out the left. From the ass is a good move.
Yeah.
Take it from the
So they
ass.
ended up using,
Yeah, measure your booty guy or a boobs guy, you know what?
and they actually used fascia, they said, instead.
Okay.
So they took that from the side, and then so that
hacking
took
lumps off you.
longer. I know.
Yeah.
And then because the surgery is so long, they ended up adding a third surgeon. So they had a different neurosurgeon come in to do the closing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're a regular listener to the podcast, then chances are you are big into your own personal development and the development of firefighters around you. So I wanted to remind you of our mobile app Drill Book. This is a free training and development resources made by firefighters for firefighters. Heading onto Drillbook, you will find incident debriefs, radio messages, notes and lines, quick reference guides, quizzes every single day. We've got useful links to the ERG, to Web Rescue, to Jessup, Euro Rescue, 10-second triage, National Operational Guidance. You've got trauma skills sessions and questions in there with 10-second surveys, patient handovers, questioning, bleed controls, vitals, major incidents, and not to mention our daily quizzes where you will find questions on extrication, casualty handling, breathing apparatus, fire development, water rescue, rope rescue, you name it. It is the go-to resource if you've got a spare 5 minutes on the firehouse to develop yourself and those around you. Not only that, if you're looking to get into the fire service, we've got advice on there on interview questions, interview answers. You can build your own questioning in there. We've got radio messages apps where you can develop and put together your own methane, IFCO, and a whole area dedicated to knots and lines and incident debriefs as well. All of the incident debriefs that we have gone through on the podcast, you'll find them there. And again, remember, this is built by firefighters for firefighters. So you can add your own drills in there. You can pick the drills that you find the most favorite. When you go to search for different drills in there, you can find breathing apparatus, hazmat, incident command, ladder drills, pumping, RTC, trauma skills, winching and recovery, urban search and rescue, heart rescue, water rescue. There is literally hundreds of training ideas, hundreds of drills in there. And you can continue to build this library of resource for yourself and for firefighters all around the world. Remember, this app is absolutely free and it grows every single day down to the contributions of our thousands and thousands of users. So if you've got that favorite training drill and you want to share it with somebody else, get in there. If you're looking for ideas for training yourself and your crews, get in there. It's freely available on Android, Apple, and you will find it in the links for this podcast. Remember, it's called personal development. The clue's in the name. You've got to work twice as hard on yourself as you do on the job. So always be growing, always be developing. Now let's get back to the show.
So what was recovery like? What was coming home, seeing the kiddies, waking up?
So I think it was way better than I expected because I think they tell you the worst, and like I said, they said I wasn't going to walk right away because I'd have to relearn how to walk.
And you went on Facebook groups too, and you heard like the worst stories.
That was a mistake, actually.
Really?
I would say before surgery, do not join Facebook support groups.
Put Dr. Google
It was
away.
the worst thing I could have done.
Google, yeah,
Honestly,
yeah.
it was like a group of everyone that had had the same surgery. But I think everyone on there had the worst possible outcomes because everyone's like, I'm still 8 years out. I can't walk. I walk like a drunk person. So it was all these like terrible stories. Like I never rode a bike again. I never like rollerbladed again. I can't do like, it's just like people that are dizzy all the time.
Did you start thinking about what you would do if that was the outcome? Like if I couldn't be a firefighter anymore, what am I going to do?
I did start thinking about that.
What ideas did you have? What?
Because
again, the first responder thing is so much of your identity, isn't it?
I know,
I'm a firefighter
yeah.
now. This is what I do. I love it. I'm part of a family.
And that actually was like one of the biggest concerns. And obviously like being able to do stuff with my kids. So that was like the backcountry hiking trip. I was like, this might be the last one we do kind of thing. But so I did think about it. I have a kin degree.
Okay.
And my original life plan was to be a physio. So I think I started to think like maybe I go back that direction. But I didn't. I was like, I'm not going to worry about that till after surgery.
Mm-hmm.
See the outcome. And everything went way better than I thought. I actually woke up in the ICU and I was like, I'm going to walk to the bathroom.
Yeah, fuck this.
It was like the first thing I thought. They were like, you're not allowed to get up. And I was like, oh yeah.
Try and stop me.
I remember when I woke up from this surgery
Yeah.
because they ask you need to wee and you need to poo before they let you leave. And I woke up middle of the night and there's a few people awake, there's a few people not awake. And I did the same. I just dragged myself to the toilet, had a poo, and then came back. And I said, I want to leave. I want to go home. You know, I'm really ratty. I didn't feel very good. And they were like, oh, we need to see your poo and see your wee. I says, I've already had a poo. And they were like, no, we need to see your poo. I says, it's still in the fucking bowl. You can go and look if you like, because I couldn't it's on the bowl. That's my poo. You go see the poo, and then I'll wee in a minute if you like. I'll wee here now. Yeah.
Mate, the size
I just want to go.
Did they get a shock when they went in there? Like, whoa.
Yeah, I was there. They did a good look. And then they brought me the thing to put on.
You just gave birth.
I just wanted to get out of there. Yeah,
Starbucks cup.
it was not fun.
Today's podcast is powered by our partner Lifelines and their revolutionary approach to functional hydration. Just like in firefighting, water is essential for body function, but studies show more than 80% of firefighters are dehydrated. A 25-year study findings from the National Institute of Health showed poor hydration to be linked to early aging and chronic disease, and even mild dehydration results in significant negative impact outcomes including headaches, exhaustion, rapid pulse, irritability, and poor cognitive function. A study conducted by Yale University showed that participants who were just 1% dehydrated had a 12% increase in errors when performing tasks that required cognitive flexibility. In addition, dehydration is shown to worsen mood and attitude, contribute to confusion and poor decision making, and negatively affect memory and judgment. In other words, you really don't want your incident commander, firefighter, or for that matter any first responder on a critical scene to be even slightly dehydrated. Mild dehydration occurs when a person is just 1.5% dehydrated, a condition that does not even trigger the thirst response in most people. So just imagine how quickly a firefighter or any first responder can and does become dehydrated in their day-to-day duties, which is why I address my hydration first thing every day with Lifelines. Go into the notes for this episode and specifically check out Lifelines Hydro Fuel and Hydro OG by clicking in the notes for the podcast for a clean energy solution designed for those who demand more from their day. Now back to the show.
Kyle, when you're hearing that, brother, like, and you say about how not far behind, but how you're in a different position, and then you see the value and the evidence of these early detection methods, not just because it's good for the department or good for the service, but we talk about thinking about the individual and what's best for the person. That's a pure manifestation of that. You know, we say we care about people, but are our words and actions actually demonstrating that? Are we walking the walk versus just talking the talk? Like, how do you connect with that and see where things could go for you and your services?
Well, for me, that there has just given me so much motivation. Like, it's invaluable. You know, so what price do you put on a health monitoring system? Yeah. You know, unfortunately, for lack of a better term, I guess, it's the cost of doing business this day and age. And, you know, organisations need to come to the party and really get on board with the research that's out there right now. Listen to these podcasts. These podcasts are just going to keep pushing and really putting the awareness out there. You know, if the world would be a worse place without Carla, you know, so she's a beautiful 100%. Person. Yeah.
Crazy thing too is the year she came back to Firefit after her surgery, she won nationals for females. So no big deal.
And now she's here kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah.
I'd imagine in your head you're like, bitch, this is me post-surgery. You wouldn't have a chance at the old car. I'd be destroying
surgery,
you.
No big deal. Yeah.
It was definitely motivation to get back though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, everything went better than I expected. I did get up and I was like, I won't say I walked well, but I did get up and walk right away.
Yeah.
And then I was able to walk around the hospital while I was in there. I was in just 5 days actually. And that was real motivation to get out because I was told the surgeons won't sign you out on a weekend.
Really?
So on Friday, I was like begging them to go home. I was like, send me home. My husband will look after me. I don't need to be here.
The children able to come and see you?
No, it was during COVID, so I was only allowed to have one person in the hospital.
So
my
lots of
husband was there.
FaceTime, lots of video calls.
No, I didn't. I don't know if this is
You left
the right
them
thing to
hanging?
say. Well, they knew that I was okay, but I didn't FaceTime them. And I didn't.
Why, just to mentally protect yourself?
I didn't want them to see, and actually my oldest daughter asked me to cover my scar when I got home. She didn't like to see it. Yeah, she's like, please don't show me that. So, yeah.
It's understandable.
I did not FaceTime them in the hospital, but I had actually, I saw a therapist before I went in for surgery, mostly to how to deal with the kids. And he gave me probably the best suggestion I had. I pre-wrote them a note and gave them a craft for every day I was in the hospital. So they actually were making me things every day.
Oh, it's beautiful.
That's really, really great. What I always love about that, we had a lady on the podcast who was a RAF nurse, and she had stage 4 bone cancer. She's still alive now, 2 years after recording. It was really surreal. She got in contact with us because she'd had breast cancer as well. She had a double mastectomy. And the pink firefighter thing and the breast cancer thing, she said, I'd love to have a chat with you because I've just been given an extension of life. She has her blood tested and her bones are breaking down all the time. She says, I've written my daughter's letters, because she has 2 sets of twin girls. I've written them letters for their birthdays, for their 18th, for their wedding day, but I haven't got anything audible. It says I want them to be able to hear my voice if I'm gone. And it was a really great thing that she said, and you sort of alluded to it there. You have to create a vision of yourself in the future. Like, create a future where I'm still here. Like, mummy's going to come back after this, and I expect to see all the things, because I don't want to imagine a future that doesn't involve me.
Yeah.
So, like, making plans for your holidays, making plans for what we're going to do in 2 years, because I'm still going to be here for that. And you have to create a vision of yourself that's still here.
And all my notes were like, I'm feeling good, surgery went well, don't worry about me. And then, I gave them a craft to do and stuff, and it was like crafts that they could send me, so.
I love it.
Yeah.
I want to be respectful of time, because I know we're heading back out onto the course in a bit. We've got to recognise we're going to celebrate some of our ladies. We've got some finals to do. Carl, I know you had a bunch of notes. Is there any closing points, maybe awareness pieces that people from different nations might want to take a look at? Because I know we had a bunch of things to talk about. Is there anything you think we should leave people with?
Well, look, I guess if you are in the position where you're in an organisation where you don't have systems set up in place, start reaching out, start putting out the feelers.
That's what I think networking and stuff like this is so valuable.
This has been fantastic. Like, hearing these stories, hearing the type of systems that different people have got in place, really does plant the tools in yourself to be able to take it back to your home country and your home organisation, and really move forward and really make a change for the future. Because we're really good at looking after other people. That's our job, but sometimes we're not the best at looking after ourselves. So
that's where I put it.
Yeah, if we get to a place there where we're supporting each other, it'll be fantastic.
Absolutely love it. Anything from yourself, Brad?
Just to add on to it, on a department level, another thing we do for cancer monitoring is every single call you go on, you have to do an exposure report. So you report exactly.
We just started doing that.
Yeah.
So for our exposure and decontamination.
Exactly.
Time, was it hot wear, cold wear? Did I, with the toxins?
What are you wearing? Your PPE,
We've been doing it with asbestos for years.
Yep.
But now we've just started doing it. Have you heard of, what's the code? There's an international code that we get now in the UK. It's going to fail me. I can't remember it. But anyway, there's a code, and I've covered it on a previous episode, that you can make your doctor aware of. So when you go in and say, I've got some, do you know what it is?
I know, but this is exactly what I was going to talk about earlier too. Like, we sit here and we go that we see a symptom in ourselves and we don't really know that that's linked to something.
Yes.
And then we might go to our GP and we go, look, I'm a firefighter. I want you to do a health check on me. And they're going, well, what do I check for?
That demonstrates you may have a predisposition to X number of things.
Similar to a smoker goes in. I'm a smoker, and I want
to
do
do
some tests.
I'll look at this then,
I
because that might be you.
this.
Otherwise, I'm just going through the fog of Carla's body and going, I don't really know your background.
Yeah.
You've told me a few things. Don't know what that means. Don't know what a firefighter does.
Yeah.
There's no way to relate that, but there is, and I'll remember it in a minute. I know.
Well, we have presumptive coverage for, I don't know if you guys have that as well.
Presumptive legislation, we call it, same thing, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like certain cancers, if you're on the job for an amount of time and you get brain cancer after 10 years, it's just assumed as from the job.
Yeah.
So you get coverage for that as if it's a workplace
That's a very
injury.
difficult causal link that we're still struggling. And again, there will be a degree of political pushback to want to allow you to make that causal link because of the retrospective cost, the landslide of
our politicians, in their mind, it was an easy win for them because there's not that many firefighters, but it makes them look really good to give us that little bonus. And I think there's 18 cancers that are covered presumptively. So it's just if you get any one of those cancers and you're working for a certain period of time, you're automatically assumed it's a workplace cancer.
I think we just need to get away from we're not pointing the fingers at people of the decisions they made in the past. If we'd have known better, we'd have done better.
That's right.
Now we know better, so let's leave it better than we found it.
It would look far worse to do nothing now.
Yes.
Let's move forward with what we know and let's make it better for the future. Yeah.
Love it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Let's get some lunch.
The Firefighters podcast was created to recognize, acknowledge, inspire, and hopefully even motivate these incredible individuals who have chosen to be part of the first responder community. Our driving purpose is to create a legacy resource for the current and future generations of firefighters and first responders. We get some incredible feedback from listeners and guests. And as the podcast grows, our desire to create longevity and sustainability means that we are asking for the support of our listeners. If you want to support the podcast, if you want to get discounts to our merchandise, hoodies, clothing, coins, patches, tally tallies, and also access to all of the incredible documents get shared with us from our podcast guests and sector leaders. And please head over to our Patreon page, and for just £3 a month, you can support the future of the podcast. Please finally hit that follow, subscribe, or rate button on the platform you're listening. And wherever you're in the world, please support your emergency services responders. And thank you for listening.